What's good with y'all, YouTube?
What's going on, too?
We got some
freaking spectators right now.
We have to stay quiet.
Crazy. Spectating greatness, that's all.
That's all it is. But yeah, we got a nice little video for you guys today.
Yeah, you want to talk about...
Basically what we're talking about is beginners in the gym, what to know before you get started with your fitness journey. I mean, things to take into consideration to get the most out of it. And to stay safe and do it the right way.
100%.
Yeah, because there's a lot of information out there. And, I mean, a lot of people have to learn from trial and error. You know what I mean? And the gym isn't the safest place. Like, I've seen people get really hurt in the gym. I mean, I've gotten hurt in the gym. So, you just want to take a few things in consideration. And, yeah, we can start it off.
Yeah, so like Jalen was saying, these are things that as a beginner, if you put into play off rip, you'll make the most out of your progress, save you a lot of time, a lot of that trial and error that he just explained.
Yeah.
But when you first get into the gym, you first start to train, you got to figure out what you're training for and your overall goals long term, because
there's a lot of methods. And there's a lot of different ways to get different results, you know what I mean, depending on what you want out of the gym, you know what I mean, because you could do a bodybuilding regimen and stick with that, and you're going to lack in different areas. Like, you can only specialize in maybe one or two things. You can't do everything the best, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to be a bodybuilder, you can't do CrossFit. You know what I'm saying? If you want to put on muscle mass, you could do that. You could prioritize that. But, you know what I mean, strength you're going to have to prioritize something, depending on what your fitness goals are. A bodybuilder and a MMA, someone that practices MMA, an MMA fighter, they're going to not work out the same. Or someone that does football, you might have some bodybuilding exercises in there, but you're going to have a lot more explosive exercises. Your rep range is going to be a lot different. You know what I mean? You might train for more strength if you're doing powerlifting. There's so many avenues. You know what I mean? CrossFit, you're going to do endurance, and there's a lot of different ways to pretty much, you got to figure out where you want to be at. You know what I mean? Like, if you're someone that wants to be overall, like, fit, and you're like the average person, and you just want to get in the gym, and you're gonna have a different training regimen than someone that's trying to compete. And
I feel like that's the case for a lot of people. You probably get in the gym because you might feel like you're a little overweight. You might feel like you're a little too skinny. You know, obviously there's other reasons, but I feel like in general that's like one of the biggest reasons people get into the gym. They just want to better themselves overall, and that's where you got to really figure out, though, your long-term goal, because if you go not the easy route, but you try to rush, say you start off, you're a little overweight, and in your head, you're like, dang, I don't like all this fat on me, but it's not even too much crazy body fat, and you're just in a super intense calorie deficit, and you lose all that weight, you drop from 200 to 140, and you're like, yeah, I lost all that weight, but now you're like, dang, now I got to build all that muscle.
You haven't got any foundation for the muscle, yeah.
You could have went a route that might have took a little longer, but it would have set you up in a little bit of a better position for your long-term goals if that's what you want.
And to touch on that before we continue, if you're a little overweight, if you go into the gym, don't think you can't lift weights, because if you think about it, the more muscle you put onto your frame, your body fat percentage will be less because you packed on muscle. So if you pack on lean muscle, your body fat percentage will be lower just off of that. You know what I mean? You're going to look better. You know what I mean? Depending on how much fat you have, for sure. Like, you're going to have to hit cardio. You're going to have to be in a caloric deficit to really get to the point you want to get to. But Yeah, and also you don't want to do it too quickly. You never want to drop weight too quick or gain weight too quick because it's not going to be quality. You're either going to lose muscle or you're going to gain a lot of fat.
There's still going to be gaps you have to fill in no matter what.
And that takes us to another point if you want to talk about the consistency.
Yeah, that, and then once you figure out what you're training for, you also got to realize that consistency is more important than anything. Just showing up in the gym every day and keeping your foot on that gas. And then again, you have a goal, right? And then say you reach that goal in your head and you let up, what's going to happen? You're going to get right back to where you were.
We're going to go back to, so our bodies want to reach homeostasis. It wants to be exactly where it's at. So that's why when you go into the gym and you increase the weight, you increase the reps, you try to get better and better every day, your body it's painful. It's uncomfortable. Your body is being forced to adapt to what you're putting it through, whatever training that is. Strength training, you're up in the weight, your body's like, dang, this is heavy. You know what I mean? We need to adapt to be able to lift this so it's less painful the next time. So if you aren't consistent, your body's going to go back to its original point. That's the whole. It's not like when I was younger, I was under the misconception that. Like, I remember asking my dad. He was getting into the gym. I was real young. I wasn't lifting yet. I remember asking him like, "Yeah, Dad, if I work out, you know what I mean? Like, how does that work? Like, can I stop working out and then will I keep all the muscle?" That was me thinking, like, my young self, like, not understanding, like,
Yeah.
it's a lifetime commitment. It's a change to your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change.
Yeah, and
For
that's
the better.
Yeah, for the better, and that's when you gotta. And the sooner you realize that, the earlier you'll be able to commit. Because one of the most important things to take away from the gym, like obviously it starts out as fun. You start to get obsessed with it, but there's not always gonna be fun. One of the most important things you gotta realize and why you're actually doing it. I guess this goes into goals as well. Is for the discipline it brings to your life and the consistency, not only in the gym, but that you can apply to other aspects of your life. It teaches you something. Progress comes from consistency,
Hard
discipline,
work.
and patience. Not
Yeah,
everything.
patience,
It's
yeah.
not going to happen overnight. The more you work, no matter how long, the more progress will come. The more you'll improve. And
Yeah.
that goes for a lifetime. 10 years to 20 years, 40 years, however long you're doing it. You will learn more.
Yeah.
You'll have more knowledge on it. You'll improve, and you'll be straight. You'll be healthy.
And another thing that exists out there when you're first getting into the weightlifting world is newbie gains. I mean, when you first start working out, you're used to doing nothing. Like I said, your body's in the homeostasis of doing your day-to-day stuff. So if you put a little bit of resistance in there, your body, that's more than what you did before, so it's going to change. That's how it works. When you first work out, you don't want to go crazy and destroy yourself. I mean, that's what I did when I first got in, but I didn't know any better, you know what I mean? If you just do a little bit, you know what I mean, and you up it as the weeks go on, it's going to be, you'll recover a lot faster, and you'll be able to be consistent the next day and the next day and still hit your workouts every day.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Or every 4 days and then rest, whatever the split is. But, lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I could kind of piggyback off what you're saying. With what he's saying about newbie games, that is a thing, and
Oh, yeah, my fault. Let me finish this.
Yeah.
All right, it just came back to me. I just had a brain fart. So you're going to have newbie gains, and then those are going to, as you are more and more consistent and as time goes on, it's going to get harder and harder to break through. You'll reach like plateaus. You'll be stuck at a certain point. You might have to rest, or you might have to change your workout regimen based on your goals, and you're gonna have to, you know what I mean, adapt to that plateau. It's not always gonna be. It's exciting when you first start out and you're growing, and then at some point, like where I'm at, I mean, we're getting stronger, but there's only so much that you're capable of. So that's when it's a lifestyle thing. It's like maintaining the gains, refining the muscle, having more muscle maturity, having more endurance. I mean, maybe pivoting to a new workout, like specialty work, whatever, new regimen or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's basically what I was saying, is that it's exciting to get that dopamine hit from seeing the changes quickly, But it's not always going to be like that. So consistency that's what wins. Consistency beats intensity every time.
Yeah, and when you're in the gym as a new beginner, it'll be real easy to try to compare yourself to other people and look at other people and be like, dang, that's what I want my physique to look like in the future. Or like, even the more years you put you're in the gym, you're 4 years down the gym, and you've been in there, you've been consistent, you've been disciplined. You're liking your progress, but you see people that might have just started a year ago that's putting up more weight than you, looking a little bigger than you, but there's other factors that go into everything, and that's why you got to just focus on yourself and your progress.
Yeah.
And have confidence in the work you're putting in.
Yeah.
Because that's what's gonna separate you from others. The work you're putting in. If you're confident in that, and you're confident in your ability to stay consistent and disciplined, then really nobody's progress should
It shouldn't matter.
shouldn't matter to you at all.
The only progress is you're trying to beat your past self.
Exactly. Your 1 year mark, you thought you was looking husky, you like in the newbie games, and you 4 years in, you're like, dang, I'm crazy for even thinking I was big back then.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's other factors that, can make people look like, you're like, dang, like how's he like? There's a lot of people on steroids, natural.
There's fake natties out there.
A lot of people that don't say nothing about it. You'll see go into your local public gym and you can't. He's on steroids. Like a lot of people, they just will never know.
We go into that too, steroid use. I feel like if you're getting in there, you should at least train for a few years, discipline, diet right, and get the most out of your natural physique.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend only do steroids if you intend on making some type of serious money from it. And you have to really think about what you're going to get out of this. Is it worth it? You know what I mean? Because once you're on the steroids, it's like getting on a merry-go-round. You know what I mean? You don't want to get off. You're going to get those gains. You're going to get big super fast. And a lot of people think they could just stop, but no. It messes your hormones. Your hormones are going to crash. You might get mentally depressed. You might, you're going to lose all your gains.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to keep that unless you stay on the merry-go-round. You know what I mean? And that goes into blasting, like people taking higher dosages, and then they're like, yeah, I'm cleaning out, and they're saying that they're off their roids, but they're really just taking a maintenance dose of TRT. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
It's a for life thing. You know what I mean?
And definitely don't do it as a beginner, because that defeats the whole purpose or the whole lesson that the gym's supposed to teach you. Like we said earlier, consistency and discipline. You can't tell me that you've been lifting for 1 year and you decide to hop on, and that's not motivating you to go every day. It's not the same as being consistent, being disciplined in it, going for 5 years, 7 years, even when you plateaued and you're just in there. Not even plateaued, but your progress is slowing up. And you're still in there putting that work in every day, finding new ways to put that work in.
Yeah, because you'll never know how to get past those points unless you were stuck at a point. I mean, the steroids kind of defeat those lessons where you reach that plateau. And you gotta you gotta do static holds. You gotta put more weight on and just hold the bench at the top to get used to the way it feels. You gotta do rack presses where you have the weight halfway off your chest and just do that rep range. Yeah. There's so many things that you will learn getting stuck at those plateaus and try to reach your next goal. And the steroids kind of defeat the purpose of that, because
it's a motivator. You're in there. It gives you something. It gives you a reason to be in the gym every day. If you hop on a steroids, first off, you're injecting yourself with a drug. So if you're not in the gym and you're injecting yourself with a drug, it's like, what am I doing? Like it's kind of
forcing you to do that, which blows my mind.
Then you got no discipline at all. But it's a motivator for sure, because you know that the gains that you're about to see are crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like, but are you like?
And genetics play a big role too in the gym. When you go into that too, like you're not Dorian Yates. You know what I mean? You're not Phil Heath. Maybe you are, but that's like 0.001% of people in the world. You know what I mean? So you gotta run your race. You know what I mean? You can't do what other. You know what I mean? You could learn from other people, but I'm just saying you're not gonna have the same journey as the next person. You know what I mean? You can only compare yourself so much, and don't try to like be like these influencers that are on roids, saying they're natural and they're really not, and you're over here chasing this and you're feeling down about yourself. It defeats the purpose. You know what I mean? You gotta be in competition with yourself.
Yeah. Let's see what else we say.
What else do we have? We could go a little bit in the training for your specific goals. You know what I mean? A basic rule of thumb is low rep range. Low rep range, higher weight. I mean, we're talking like 3 to 5 reps with adequate rest in between is key for strength.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a common knowledge now. And then higher rep range, 10 to 12. You know what I mean? Is ideal for bodybuilding. You want to hypertrophy your muscles. You don't have to. So there's new studies. You don't have to go to failure every time, but you should probably hit 1 set to failure per muscle group for sure. Because your muscle, it breaks the muscle down. Your muscles adapt and overcompensate and repair bigger, and that's where you get the fullness. Strength, you know what I mean? You're working the nervous system, the movement, and you're getting more muscle fiber. You're recruiting more muscle fibers. You know what I mean? It's a different type of training for a different outcome.
Another thing would be when you're as a new beginner, another one of your main focuses should be tuning in on your form.
Yes.
And again, how you're training. But the faster you could get that form down and perfect it, that mind muscle connection down, it'll just up your progress 10 times.
Yeah.
It's just a learning curve.
And yeah, when we say consistency, that doesn't mean just go in there and just go through the motions. Like, yeah, consistency, like if you're having a bad day and you happen to go through the motions, is better than if you didn't go at all. But every day you want to have I want to get 1% better mentality. Like, you should be trying to get just a little bit better every day. And that doesn't mean like just keep loading the weight on, but you need to be perfecting the form. You need to be
train with intent. Just don't go through the motions. During your set, you should be thinking about your form. You should be thinking about, all that type of stuff. You got to train with intent. You got to know you're not just throwing on weight that you can get for 20 reps.
You're not trying to impress nobody. You know what I mean? Don't be doing the freaking...
Don't be ego lifting off.
Ego lifting is terrible. You know what I mean? I've seen people get seriously injured. Ego lifting.
And that's not impressing nobody. Again, if say I've been in the gym for 8 years or something, and I see you 1 year and you're throwing up more weight than me, even if it's natural, like it's not really gonna impress nobody. Like it's not, especially if it's ego lifting, it's you're getting looked at like you're crazy. Like,
if you're ego lifting, you're usually putting more than you can handle, and the form is usually lacking at the end of the reps. It's not to a very experienced lifter. We're just looking at you, we're shaking our head. Like, what is he doing? Like, drop the weight and do it right. You know what I mean? That's the form is key. You know what I mean? It comes with consistency. The amount of reps you put in over time, having the intent to get better form and correct things. You know what I mean? Like, and this is stuff you learn too. Like, there's a lot of information online, but you're not gonna learn everything. And so, you know what I mean? So, if you're doing like a straight leg deadlift, for example, and you feel like your back is a little sore after, like it's kind of tweaked a little bit. This happened to me before. So then I go like, I search up the correct form and why that might be, you know what I mean? And then you find out you got to keep the bar as close to your shins and your body and your center of gravity as possible. And if that bar is away from your body, as you're going down, you're putting stress on your lower back.
Yeah.
So then you correct that. You know what I mean? You put some ice on it, you might take some time off, and you come back and now you know. You know what I mean? So...
Yeah, another thing I like to touch on is, as a beginner, it's important, it's okay to have fun in the gym, find your passion in it, enjoy yourself, go with friends, but again, this goes into the consistency and discipline. Don't always rely on that, because there's going to be times where you just have to push through. It's not going to be fun at some points. Like, when you're going for 10 years, 15 years, it's got to be routine. You can't expect it to be, giggles and, you feel me, like, just in there to entertain yourself, because you gotta, again, at some point you gotta realize the real reason you're doing it. Again, we said a couple times, is the discipline it teaches you and the consistency it brings into your life, in the gym and in other aspects of your life.
Yeah, you can apply a lot of the same principles you learn in the gym. You can apply to pretty much every area of life.
Because I see people all the time on Instagram or TikTok saying like, You know, the problem is people aren't having fun in the gym. You gotta go there to have fun. You know, that's what's gonna like keep you going. It's entirely
You're not gonna
wrong.
have fun every day. Like I said, consistency over everything. If you're having a bad day, if you're sick one day, and you might have a piercing headache, it's not gonna be fun in there. You just gotta go. Even if you do lighter weight, you went. It's better than not going.
Yep.
You gotta have that mentality, like that consistent mentality. You know what I mean? Even if you can't make it to the gym, you're like, freak it, I got chest day today.
Yep.
I'm gonna just bang out a couple hundred push-ups. You know what I mean? You're busy. You just want to be as consistent as possible and always be, you know what I mean? Worried about the long-term goal. Your long-term goal, especially like for the average person, like you want to have a good amount of muscle mass. You know what I mean, on your body. And that's another thing. We work in construction right at the moment. We're electricians, so I hear a lot of people saying that their back is hurting or, oh, I'm getting old, but they're not even lifting weights. Like if you lift weights, it could improve your quality of life severely. If you have back problems, if you strengthen the muscles in your back, you fortify that back, then it's going to be less susceptible to injury. That's just same thing with stretching too. Stretching goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
If you can go all the way back here with your shoulder comfortably and stretch out to different, your mobility is on point, then if you get to that point with some weight, it's not going to tear. But if you can only go to here, as soon as that weight's on you and you go past that level, it's torn. Your joints are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you want to strengthen and be mobile. Mobility work is very key. It's a lot of things that, you know, bodybuilding doesn't really take into account, but a lot of strength athletes do. You know what I mean? Mobility. And I mean like weightlifting, like you do snatch and cleans, like they do a lot of mobility work. And yeah, it's a lifelong commitment. You gotta figure out what your goals are, how you want to train. You want to stick with a training regimen that works for you. You know, figure it out. If something's not working, if you have injuries, if you're older and you're training with injuries, stay away from certain exercises where there's pain. You know, I mean, you don't want to just push through when you're having, you know what pain is like. You know, I'm talking about soreness or like, you know what I mean, little tweaks. But if you have serious pain when you do a movement, then modify and change it. If you're doing barbell and you feel pain, try dumbbell. If you're doing machine, you know what I mean, try kettlebell or try this exercise. You know what I mean, there's a lot of exercises, a lot of different. You could customize it to your, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
your injuries.
that goes into this figuring out your goals, long-term goals. There's a lot of older guys that get into the gym and, you know, like you're saying, they're not really trying to get super strong or super shredded or something, trying to improve their well-being. And, you know, there's certain ways you could train to make sure you prevent any injuries that might come from training out, lifting OD heavy, you know, training a certain way. But, yeah, for whatever goal you have, there's a certain way to train.
Like, not even if you're older. Like, I'm 24, I had shoulder surgery. There's certain exercises where we'll be in the gym. Devin's like, do you want to do this? I try it for a couple reps. I'm like, nah, I don't feel right with my shoulder. I just won't do it. I'll do a different exercise that hits the same muscle group, or I'll try something else, or I'll modify it a little bit to get to that goal that I want without, you know what I mean? You gotta just, and that comes over time with the consistency and learning and trying to be better. I mean, you'll get to the point where you'll listen to your body. And also the weight. You don't want to, I think we already touched on this, but you want to do, you could do no weight. When you first get in there, just do the bar, just to get used to the movements. And
Yeah.
and I don't, do you have anything else?
No, just
Actually, I do got something else. Diet. Diet is just as important as the gym. I mean, you could work out every day, eat like shit, and you're gonna be blocking yourself from a new level of gains. That might be my dad. You're blocking yourself from gains. You know what I mean?
You didn't call me.
Oh, we got this nut.
Alright,
Crackhead's
Yeah,
dad.
They're recording.
Here he comes.
there he goes.
Flannel man.
Daddy's here. He came in hot as hell.
What the heck is that?
Got you.
What the fuck?
Got you this dog.
Yo. Hey, yo.
It's got gifts, alright.
Present for my sons.
Appreciate it. That's beautiful.
Awesome.
I love the walk.
It's
good.
What's up?
Give him one tip for
Pops.
beginner, get into the gym.
Okay, what's your tip? Beginner in the gym.
Beginner in the gym.
What should they know when they're first getting started?
Just stay in it. You know what I mean? Give it a good 3 months for your results to start happening.
That's it.
Stay consistent, okay?
Stay consistent. You're not gonna get that immediate. You're not gonna lift one day and the next day you're super duper husky like me. You know what I mean? This is years. I've been lifting since I was in 8th grade. You know what I mean? You can't have muscles like these
Yeah, bro.
overnight. You know what I'm saying? So,
But yeah, that's the video right there.
yo, I think
Biggest
we touched on a
takeaway.
lot of stuff. Yeah.
Biggest takeaway, like that says, the consistency
Consistency is.
and the discipline. You know,
Yeah, you could do a lot. You could do a lot. You know, just being consistent. You know, I mean, someone could be bigger than you, and just you don't compare yourself. You just run your race, stay consistent. They might be bigger than you, and they fall off, and now your consistency beat their genetics and their intensity. That's just being consistent. You want to win. You want to win in the long run. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not a short. You're not lifting to get the results tomorrow. Like this is for life. So
yep.
yeah, and have fun with it. You know what I mean? Be safe. Form. Figure out what you're training for. Yeah, I feel like we touched on a lot. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So this is just the general basics of what to think about when you're first getting started.
Yes, sir.
Yep, but that's it. We out. Peace.